Hello friends, welcome to Trishtech Institute YouTube channel, and today in our Linux Fundamentals episode 6 we'll be speaking about the remote administration via SSH. So before we start over that, we'll be seeing what is SSH. So SSH or Secure Shell is a remote administration protocol which allows users to remotely connect to their Linux or Unix systems over network, and this network can be your local network or it can be over internet also, and it replaces the unsecured telnet. So in SSH it encrypts end-to-end communication via SSL, and also it provides you a mechanism to authenticate the user, then transfer the inputs from client machine to the server, and then from server takes back that output and display on the client's screen. Also SSH gives you a capability to securely copy over network via SCP, that is secure copy, and SFTP, that is secure FTP. And so you know now what is SSH. Now let's see how SSH works. So you will have a client machine and you will try to connect to your server via SSH. So whenever you are initiating a SSH connection, so clients initiates a connection over port 22. So that is the default port for SSH. So when it initiates the connection for the SSH, so server sends its public key to the client machine, and client machine adds that key to the known host file for that user. So that location for the known host file is in user's home directories, then .ssh folder, and inside that known host file. So when that public key is added to that known host file, it initiates the Diffie-Hellman-Markle key exchange procedure. In that case, it agrees over the key exchange and they encrypt end-to-end communication. So when the encryption is done, then it start exchanging that data between client and server. So this can be your username or password or whatever command the client is sending, and whatever server is giving back the response. So here you can see before it initiates that password sharing and username sharing, so it encrypts the entire connection, then only it starts. So entire communication is secured via encryption. So then we will see how we can configure SSH to use it. So on the server side, we have the configuration file is etc sshd config. So here one thing to mention, in Linux systems the package for SSH server or SSH client, whatever you say, that is OpenSSH. So OpenSSH configuration file is here, etc ssh sshd config, and these are all few well-known configuration parameters for sshd_config file. So allow users are used for allowing specific users to connect via SSH, whereas deny users are like blocking specific users to connect via SSH. And if you want to log in directly via root, you have to enable the permit root login options, and listen port option you will be using mainly to listen on specific IP address on the local server, and whereas port option is for the TCP port to use to connect via SSH. And password authentication and use PAM, these two options will be using at a time, so that if you want to connect via password, we can enable that. So if you want to disable that password authentication via SSH, so that user, if he wants to log in over SSH and provide his password while authenticating, so that you will reject. So in that case you have to use password authentication as a no, and also use PAM, that is pluggable authentication module, which enables that user to authenticate on the server, that also you need to put as a no. And if you want to forward your display, so that is mostly important if you are connecting to your server and want to get some GUI from the server to your client machine. So in that case you can connect over SSH and securely do that via enabling the X11 forwarding option. So now you have seen how you can configure your server. Let's see how you can configure your client. So for configuring client, the configuration file is /etc/ssh/ssh_config. So here one thing to mention, for server it is sshd, and whereas for client it is ssh_config. So you should not get confused over the name of the configuration file. So here you can have your individual user configuration file also, that should be residing under users home directory, and then same .ssh folder, and inside that config is the file name for user specific configuration. And if you want to restrict a client to connect only to the well-known servers via SSH, in that case you can enable the strict host key checking as yes. So if you enable that, what happens, for all remote servers public keys are stored in your known host file, in those servers only it will be allowing you to connect. So if you want to connect to some other new server, it will reject that connection, and in that case if you want to really want to connect to that, you have to manually add the public key to the known host file. So in that case SSH connection initialization will not be able to connect add that automatically to known host file. You have to add it manually. So now you have seen that how you can configure both server and client. Now once your configuration is done and you know how it works and all, then you will want to see how you can connect over SSH. So connecting via SSH, so login to the remote server, you will be doing SSH and then username @ the server name, or server name, it can be host name or it can be IP address also if you don't have the DNS entry created for your remote server. Now if you want to copy some files over SSH, so that is SCP, you can use SCP. Then if you are copying it from local system, so local file full path, that /etc/mott as per here example, and then the remote server's location, so like the remote user root, then @ the server host name or IP address, and then the :path where you want to store that. So similarly, if you want to copy it back from remote server, same thing, SCP and then remote server host name or username details and that file details, and then your local where you want to copy it. So that you will be doing for SCP. And now if you want to connect your remote host over SFTP, that secured FTP, the command will be SFTP then user @ the remote host name or IP address. So now here one thing to tell you, if you are, this is the first time you are doing that SSH or SCP or SFTP to a remote server, it sends you that public key, as you saw how it works section. So that public key then you have to accept and add it back. So if you want to, before connect, if you want to check the public key, you can use the SSH key scan command. So it shows all the remote servers public key. So if it is have a RSA or DSA type of public key or everything, it will show. And if you have to specifically see, okay, I want to see the RSA or DSA key, you can add the -t option. So this is a example you can see, like where I want to see remote server Linux -G39, that's 339 servers public key. I will be using SSH key scan and then hostname, and it gives you a big output of your public key for the remote host. Now you this is fine if you are connecting over SSH, but here problem is every time you connect, it's ask you to give a password for the remote server. So now you want to secure your remote connectivity and you want to disable the password authentication. So in that case, what you can do, you can generate the SSH key pair. So whenever you will run the SSH keygen command, it generates two key pair. One is your private key and another one is your public key. So, and this one you can use to authenticate your remote server. And if you want to specifically use specific type of key, then you add the -t. By default it generates RSA key. So if you want to suppose generate DSA or something, so you use -t option. Like as you can see here, whenever you run that SSH keygen, it creates a directory in your home directory inside your home directory, that is the .ssh directory, and inside that it put both the public and private key, and you have an option to enter a passphrase to secure your key, so that if someone wants to use that, he has to unlock it before using it. So once you provide the passkey, it generates those public key and private key pair. Now you have generated your public and private key. if now you want to authenticate remote server with that, so how you can do that via adding that public key to the remote server. So in that case you can do it two methods. One is the long way, where you will be like doing copying that public key from your local server to the remote server, then you log in back to the remote server and then add the content of that public key to the remote users home directories authorized keys file. So that is your long way. Or you can do in similar way in a Linux system. You have a command available, ssh copy id. It does a similar way, but in that case you just do ssh copy id, then you identify the public key and then the remote server with the remote username, and it asks you for the remote user's password. Once you provide the proper password, it adds the key to the authorized key file so that you can log in using that public key. So this is fine, you have added and all, but here also problem is every time you log in or use that key, it asks you to provide the passphrase to unlock it and use that. So if you want to eliminate that, you can use SSH agent. So you no need to provide every time the passphrase, you just provide only once, and this works as a wrapper for various processes which use the SSH connectivity. So you no need to provide every time the passphrase to authenticate. And so to do this, you start the SSH agent and then you add the passphrase into SSH add command. So now onwards, whenever you initiate any connection, it monitors that and it provides the private key to authenticate to the remote server. So you no need to put the passphrase every time. And also good thing of this is like it works with your graphical user interface also. So in that case you have to add a option use SSH equals to yes inside your etc x11 xdm sys.expression file. So once you add that, you will be able to use your private and public key to authenticate to a remote server, and this is entirely secure way. So entire thing is encrypted end to end. So now we'll be seeing the demonstration, but for demonstration we are not going to show you in this video because this video is already lengthy. So what we have done, we have break this video in two parts. So first part is that this session, this theoretical part, and second part is the live demonstration. So please watch the second part for the live demonstration to understand the concept in better way. So hope you have liked this video, and if you have not subscribed to our channel yet, so please subscribe to our YouTube channel, the Rich Tech Institute, and also press the bell icon so that you get the live notification of all our updated videos. Have a good day. Bye.